don't know if anybody's seen this, but this is the latest story that's come out of Eurovision. Another story of the woke liberal elite that are apparently, according to Matt Goodwin, are now the new elite that are in control of all our institutions. So there's the woke celebrities, right? It's a very kind of Murdochian position to take to try and frame celebrities as being emblematic of some kind of cultural decay. Amusing that Matt Goodwin will say this whilst stuffing his pockets full of Emirati petrodollars like a cartoon villain might do so. But in more stories about the metropolitan liberal woke elite that we've got, the Eurovision entrant is an anti-Boris Johnson left-wing activist, May Muller, who will perform "I Wrote a Song" in Liverpool next month. Said Boris Johnson did not deserve a hospital bed during COVID. Wow, love it, incredible. Yeah, based we stand. Britain's Eurovision entrant is a left-wing activist who hates Boris Johnson and said he did not deserve an ICU bed as he fought for his life, the Telegraph can reveal. I agree. I agree. She made the remarks as Mr. Johnson was receiving medical treatment for the virus. Lee Anderson, deputy chair of the Conservative Party, criticised the singer's vile left-wing slurs and accused the BBC of a lack of common sense for choosing her to represent the UK. The problem is, right? The problem is that how are you going to find a non-left-wing musician to be the Eurovision Song Contest entry, right? What are things that conservatives will constantly do? They'll try and claim, like Matt Goodwin does, that there's some kind of cultural elite consensus amongst the upper echelons of the celebrities in this country. That's mean they're all, woke, liberal, progressive types, without realizing that the vast majority of people who get into these positions are through the arts, right? Like the most of our celebrities in this country are actors or musicians or whatever it might be, right? Comedians, for example. These groups are all overwhelmingly left wing because there is no good conservative art. Like, how many conservative artists do you fucking know? How many people, especially considering the amount of anti-art propaganda that you get from the right wing, This person's a dancer, but their next job could be in cyber. Have you considered retraining into something more economically valuable? Despite the fact that the music industry brings in huge amounts of money into this country, far more than plenty of other sectors. Books, for example, get loads of money into this country. It's why they're all love-bombing J.K. Rowling, because she's one of the only fucking artists in this country with reactionary viewpoints. They get to be able to mollycoddle because she's the odd one out as far as the artistic people in this country are concerned. But the fact that they seem to be absolutely gobsmacked at the idea that a musician might be left-wing, and not only that, a 25-year-old left-winger, right? Like, how many young people, how many people 25 and under in this country do you think support the Conservative Party? Are you not shocked? Are you shocked that there might be some left-wingers amongst young people in this country? I can't believe that this is a point of contention for you. A young musician is a left-winger. Oh my god! I'm so incredibly shocked. The absolute horror of the idea of there being a young left-wing musician. In a series of political tweets, Ms. Muller also campaigned for Jeremy Corbyn, took aim at the racist and elitist Conservative Party, true, and said, "I hate this country," based in a mid-row over free school meals. True. The real point of inflection about who we should support for being the Eurovision candidate is how vociferous they are in their desire to see children go hungry. Right? If you don't want to see children go hungry, then no Eurovision for you, as far as Lee Anderson and Dominic Penner are concerned. Let me have a look at him. Does he have a picture of him on here? No, he won't even put his picture up. Won't even put his picture up so we can mock him for being just like every other conservative journalist in this country. The 25-year-old who found fame on TikTok was selected by BBC bosses in partnership with the management company TAP Music in the hope that she can go one better than last year by winning the annual song contest on May the 13th. As Mr. Johnson remained in intensive care for a third day in St Thomas's Hospital in London on the 8th of April 2020, Ms. Muller wrote on Twitter, "Unpopular opinion, but I do not feel sorry for Boris Johnson." Well, yeah, that's going around shaking hands with people without a mask on in a fucking COVID ward. What do you expect to happen? Yes, he is human, yes, he has kids, but so do hundreds of other people who have actually died due to Tory policies. Taking up a bed in intensive care, but you're not on a ventilator and in high spirits? Nah, mate. True. True and based. In a second tweet, she said, "The same nurses you praise in your speeches are the same nurses you choose to cut all their benefits and cheered while doing it." Yeah. I can't believe they are writing this article to try and take her down. She's just making her sound great. Love her. In the run-up to the 2019 election, she tweeted, "Fuck the Tories," as she backed Jeremy Corbyn. "Please register to vote today, and when you do, please vote Labour. We have the power to take these racist elites down, so let's do it." But actually, I think you'll find, according to Matt Goodwin, she's the real elite. The thing is, there is a truth to the idea that there is a class of celebrity who has become an elite. But do you know what the real dividing line for where the elite celebrities come from? They're all from middle class, upper class backgrounds, right? They all went to private schools. The music industry is known for being a place where people who've gone to the Brit School, which is a private music school, will just be gifted music contracts to become full-time musicians, for example, and be the face of British music, for example, despite having basically no talent. Like, do you think Adele would have become a worldwide sensation off of releasing Chasing Pavements when she was 19? Were it not for her being continually pushed by the Brit School? Like, she's a really great singer now, and 21 is a much better album, but Chasing Pavements was a garbage song, and it got rated highly in the charts because she was backed by the music industry, who she was deliberately put into because she was, in the position to be able to get paid through the Brit School. That's where the establishment are. It's money, it's class, right? The idea that there's some kind of a liberal establishment, as Matt Goodwin will tell you that there is, whilst working literally for an Emirati billionaire-backed the Legatum Institute, which is essentially a right-wing pro-free market think tank that also funds GB News, amusingly, who he keeps guesting on to talk about stuff, ironically. The real, as always, the real divide is class. Every single time. Every single time. After Mr. Johnson won the election, she tweeted, "Fuck Boris." When he tested positive for COVID, she quoted his previous comments about shaking hands with COVID patients to say, "Lol, life comes at you fast." Yeah. Good. Glad she did that. Well done. Tory MPs condemned her remarks and questioned the BBC's judgment in selecting her to represent Britain in this year's contest. I thought we were in a meritocracy. If she's a good singer, which people keep telling me she is, even though she's not my kind of music really, then her political views apparently shouldn't come into it. Apparently everyone should be selected on merit, but no, it's as soon as the Conservatives want to have control over the political viewpoints of people they disagree with, suddenly it makes it okay. And merit completely goes out the window, for example. Mr. Anderson, who was the MP for Ashfield, said, "It's starting to look like a vile left-wing slurs are actually something the BBC requires from people it wants to promote. You'd think that the Lineker fiasco they'd have used some common sense, but it just goes to show they don't care. And why would they, given the licence fee? If they think by planting their own left-wing entrant into Eurovision will see us re-enter the EU at some stage, they should think again." Literally, it's like, do you remember? I don't know if anybody's seen. There was a new Joe Lasette skit he did with Alan Carr, where he was just randomly in the middle of the segment pretending to be a GB News presenter, and in Europe. Like, this is literally like everything is some kind of weird EU globalist conspiracy to these people. Craig McKinlay said the comments were foul-mouthed and unpleasant, claiming her views were the norm amongst employees of the BBC. I think you'll find her views are the norm amongst literally every young person in the country, especially musicians, for example, right? Unless you want to, dig up the grave of some aging musician from the 80s, for example, who's magically managed to become right-wing for incredible. Most of these artistic people have not become more right-wing with age. Very few of them have done, which is thankful, right? But I'm sure there's some, wizened cadaver of a musician that we can dig up who still has incredibly right-wing views who you can have as the Eurovision Song Contest entry. But if you want someone who's actually going to win, you might want to have someone who's young and probably attractive, and the chance of them being anything other than left-wing is very fucking low. I'm surprised that you're surprised by this. A former cabinet minister added, "She's very talented and has prospects of an excellent career. Perhaps you ought to consider the best way of cultivating that career is to be a bit more humane." Actually, I think it is incredibly humane to criticise political leaders for the mistakes and the shit that they do and say. Is Boris Johnson beyond reproach? Apparently not. Boris Johnson was close to death, allegedly. He was in the intensive care unit at St Thomas's Hospital, and frankly, a bit more sympathy and understanding is expected. No, exactly. If you're going to go around shaking hands with COVID patients when we're supposed to having a lockdown, and also partying during lockdown as well, you got what you wanted. You didn't need to get what you wanted. I'm tapping the "you got what you wanted" sign right now. Even Rod Stewart, Toryist extraordinaire, is saying the Tories need to be out of government. Yeah, exactly. Mr. Let the Bodies Pile High needs more sympathy. Amazing. 100%. The Eurovision rules stipulate the contest is a non-political event and that no organisation, political cause, or other service should be promoted, featured, directly mentioned during the event. I mean, okay. No one said that she was going to do a political event in the Eurovision Song Contest. But apparently, if someone has left-wing political views, it means that everything they do is now left-wing, regardless whether it is actually left-wing in actual context or not. Incredible. Wonderful. Love it. Imagine getting so triggered over someone exercising their right to have their own political opinions, and who doesn't actually do it within their remit with the thing that you're criticizing them for doing. Like, at no point is she ever actually doing any of this in her remit as a Eurovision Song Contest singer, which would be a genuine point of criticism. What you're actually trying to do here is cancel her for wrongthink, really. Ukraine literally won last year. Come on, dude, non-political. Yeah, exactly. And it's always been a political event. What do you think? What do you think the collision happens between all the ex-Yugoslav countries? Yeah, the only thing that was entertaining was Wogan commentating. Very true. Very true. But it is incredible, the amount to which these people just seem to think that again, I will point this out every single time because I think it's really important to understand how these people's minds think, right? In that there's this big kind of conspiracy theory that schools, for example, are indoctrinating young people into leftism or to Marxism or to wokeism, whatever you want to call it, right? Whatever miscellaneous kind of bugbear you wanna create to demonize young people. The reason why this theory is so prominent at the moment is because fundamentally a lot of these liberal types, right? Because let's remember, people like Lee Anderson, they are also liberals, right? They are conservative liberals, but they're liberals nonetheless. They believe in liberalism. They fundamentally think that the political spectrum is like a bell curve, and should always remain a bell curve for every generation, where there's the extreme crazies on the other ends of the horseshoe, and the strong and sensibles in the middle, where they fundamentally perceive themselves to be. And that if there is a potential for a generation who are massively skewed for one end of this political spectrum, there must be some kind of, unscrupulous fifth column that's influencing these people, that's corrupting their minds. And they fundamentally can't get out of this centrism is the correct point of view mindset. And that's where this conspiracy kind of comes from. The only possible reason there could be for having a largely left-wing group of young people in this country is because they've had their minds poisoned by the woke mind virus, or by activist teachers, or by woke celebrities and the progressive celebrities and things like that. They cannot, for 1 minute, possibly entertain the idea that the failure of the neoliberal consensus has turned young people wholesale against capitalism. Aaron Bastani makes this point all the time, and he's correct to make this point, in that left-wing young people are a reaction to the failures of economic policy for the past 45 years, right? If we'd have maintained the social democratic consensus instead of having it destroyed by Thatcher, we would not have the high level of left-wing activism, I guess, or left-wing thought amongst young people today. The fact that the young people's future has been destroyed by the marketisation of housing, the marketisation of our energy sector, and the continued adherence to the fossil fuel industry that's going to cause climate breakdown and destroy their futures, leaving the European Union. They perceive it generally as being something that's affected them negatively. Especially if you're a musician and you want to be able to get visas to travel to tour around Europe. Far more difficult now. They're outside the European Union. They've been spurned by a generation whose material interests are opposed to them, and a political system that's opposed to them as well. Marketisation of housing is a gigantic one. We have a government run by landlords for landlords, and they are repudiating these economic positions, which they wouldn't do if the post-war consensus had been maintained for the last 40 years. And that's why fundamentally liberals are getting absolutely, cock a hoop at the idea that there's a broadly left-wing group of young people, because they cannot perceive the idea that people might theoretically be a result of their own material conditions, rather than being ideologically indoctrinated, which is what they feel everyone else who doesn't think like them is, because that's the centrist position, right? It's the genuine horseshoe theory, brain poison bullshit, where you think that populism is a unique issue rather than something where the left-wing populism and right-wing populism are fundamentally diametrically opposed. And that comes into why centrist types will get angry at people like Matt Goodwin for trying to claim that there's a populist uprising against wokey celebrities, when there is a populist uprising, and it will be against the bourgeois, against the moneyed interests, against the fundamental class system that has plagued this country for decades and decades and centuries, quite frankly. We have one of the most stratified class systems in any country in Europe because of the history of this country, and that is breaking down, and young people are revolting against it, as they should. Brilliant, based and cool. But it's not indoctrination. It is the fault of the policies that the right wing and the red right wing have adopted for 45 years. Simple as that. And the fact that we're this kind of surreal idea where multiple politicians are weighing in and getting triggered by comments made by some pop singer who's going to sing at Eurovision, just shows you how far away they are from the kind of political viewpoints that the younger generation even has. Right? Breaking news: young people hate the Conservative Party. Like, no fucking shit. Like, you're surprised? Anyway, please like and comment and subscribe to the channel, and give me money as well. 99p to my member, future YouTube viewers. If you want to support the channel, you can do that. It's nice and cheap for you.